Welcome back to Miracles in the Madness. I'm Ashton Kever, your host, and today I want to take a little bit of time to talk through a psalm that I have been excited about lately, and just remind you that for anything that you are feeling or struggling with as a parent or as a woman or as just person, the Bible pretty well will have. I have yet to find a situation where I couldn't find something in the Bible that could speak to my heart. But even if it didn't, sitting in prayer and just sitting in quiet with God about it has often settled my heart and my fears. Personally, something I struggle a lot with is surrendering control. Now, I don't know about you or what stage of parenting you're in, but so far in my parenting journey, there are many things that I can control, and there are many things that I cannot. And sometimes finding the line between them is not always easy, but I have had to accept the things that I cannot change. I think there's a prayer called the Serenity Prayer that I knew growing up, and I think it goes something like, God, help me to accept the things that I cannot change. Give me the wisdom to know what I can, and grant me the serenity to know the difference, or something like that. Because that line between what you can do something about and what you can't is really small. Sometimes it's a fine line. But for me, control is comforting. If I know there's a way to control the situation, I'm not afraid of it. And unfortunately, there are situations in this life that we don't have control over, and we have to overcome our fear. And the best way to do that is with God. So I'll use an example from my life. When I was pregnant with my third child, when they did that 20-week ultrasound, they noticed something different with her umbilical cord. And it turns out that that cord was what they call a velamentous cord attachment to my placenta. That velamentous cord attachment is actually, it is serious. It is a high-risk situation. But most of the things you find when you look for actual experienced mamas to tell you about it, you will find that it is typically no issue. But if you Google it, Google will tell you there's about like a 50% chance you're going to die, unless you have like a C-section or something. And so anyway, the point I'm making with this is there is nothing I could do about that. There is absolutely nothing that I could do. And so what I chose to do is find peace in the fact that God put me in that position. But I prayed regularly about that. Every doctor's appointment, every moment I had it on my mind, as often as possible, I was praying that God would allow me to give birth normally and that everything would be okay. And, there was risk involved with giving birth like vaginally, because you don't really know how strong that cord attachment is based on how it is going into the placenta. And so when everything happened the way that it did, we ended up looking at the placenta, and it really was like a few unprotected blood vessels. So one swift pull could have led to me bleeding out, the baby having some issues. Like, both of us would have been in a very dire situation. And that's really scary to receive that news from your doctor, from Dr. Google. But one thing I did learn through that whole experience was to just trust and let go of the worry and the anxiety, because at that point I was only halfway through my pregnancy. I had another 20 weeks to go, and there was nothing I could do about it at the time that I found out about it, and there was not going to be anything I could do about it for any of it. I had to fully rely on God. And it's not always easy to stay in the place of full trust and reliance on God, like you are in situations like that where you're really tested in your journey. But this particular psalm, Psalm 25, that David wrote, really stood out to me recently, because it's in my Bible. It says dependence on the Lord. And so I want to share with you, I'm first going to read, you know what, we'll just read through it and talk through it at the same time. And I hope that this kind of mini Bible study is helpful for you, and I would welcome you to answer or ask questions, give me feedback on it. I receive all of that via email. You're welcome to just email me. My email is ashton@ashtonkever.com. And I would love to have a conversation about it. So this is Psalm 25. I'm reading in the CSB Bible. And it says, Lord, I appeal to you. My God, I trust in you. Do not let me be disgraced. Do not let my enemies gloat over me. No one who waits for you will be disgraced. Those who act treacherously without cause will be disgraced. So already at the top of this psalm, David is just starting with an appeal to God and straight up saying, I trust you. Please don't let me be disgraced. And then he explains who gets to be disgraced. Not the one who waits for you. The one who waits on the Lord will not be disgraced. Those who act treacherously without cause will be disgraced. Treacherously without cause. So, I think that kind of means those who do bad things for no reason, they'll be disgraced. So the next verse 4 goes, Make your ways known to me, Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. I wait for you all day long. Remember, Lord, your compassion and your faithful love, for they have existed from antiquity. So when it says remember, Lord, it's not like we're reminding God because he's forgotten. It's more like the psalmist, in this case David, asking God to act according to the covenant that they've already made in order to provide deliverance. But he mentions specifically God's character, your compassion and your faithful love. They have existed from antiquity. They've existed forever. So guide me in your truth. Teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. He knows who God is for him. He knows the way that God can save him and take care of him. He asks God to make his ways known and to teach him his paths. I think that is something that we as parents probably spend a lot of our time doing. God, please tell me what you're doing. Help me to understand, because if I understand, I'm going to be more understanding with my kids, or I'm going to be able to handle it better because I know it's coming. And God knows better than us. So I think for us to assume knowing the path is going to make it easier is maybe a little naive, but I think also he knows what we can handle at any given time. So a little bit at a time, that's all it needs to be. A little bit at a time. If he gives us too much, maybe we won't follow through because we're afraid of whatever is coming. Okay, verse 7. Do not remember the sins of my youth or my acts of rebellion. In keeping with your faithful love, remember me because of your goodness, Lord. The Lord is good and upright, therefore he shows sinners the way. He leads the humble in what is right and teaches them his way. All the Lord's ways show faithful love and truth to those who keep his covenant and decrees. Lord, for the sake of your name, forgive my iniquity, for it is immense. David knows he is not without sin. And so he's asking God to please take that sin away from him and make him worthy of God's salvation, of the deliverance from the terrible situation he's in. And I think one of my favorite things about this psalm is seeing all of these great character descriptions of God and how well David knows God by his character. I think is just really lovely as well. So verse 12 picks up, "Who is this person who fears the Lord? He will show him the way he should choose. He will live a good life, and his descendants will inherit the land. The secret counsel of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he reveals his covenant to them." I really like the part that says he will show him the way he should choose. He will live a good life and his descendants will inherit the land. He's saying right there that God will have favor on those who trust in him and who follow his ways. And the next line as well, I really enjoy, like, the secret counsel of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he reveals his covenant to them. You know, I think about the movie War Room when I read that line and how they're never out in the open counseling with God. That's the whole premise of that movie, is teaching people how to make a space that is dedicated to prayer and petition to the Lord. And so in that line, it makes me think of all the times I'm driving in my car and it's just me and God and we're just talking and I'm letting him know, he already knows, right? But I'm sharing with him my fears, my concerns, all the things that I'm going through, and just really talking to him in my car like I'm talking to somebody on the phone, And it says that those are the people that God reveals his covenant to. The secret counsel of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he reveals his covenant to them. I don't understand this word fear to be like are afraid of God. I understand it as like highly revere. You fear the Lord. You are reverent to the Lord. And so for those who pay homage to the Lord, are reverent and revere him, he reveals his covenant to them. And that kind of goes back to the beginning where it talks about teach me your paths. I feel like the more I get to know God and the more that I put my trust in him and I stay focused on him, I can see one step ahead of me now. I understand the plan enough to know or feel confident that I'm walking in the right direction. Whereas before it felt really like a blind shot in the dark. And I think the more my relationship continues to develop with God, the better I will get at that part. So I don't remember if I read verse 15 or not, but my eyes are always on the Lord, for he will pull my feet out of the net. We talked a lot this past summer at NYR about keeping your eyes on the throne, staying focused on God. And when you stay focused on God, you can go through the trials and tribulations of this life with more peace and joy and confidence, knowing that God is going to pull you through it. It's that whole idea of if I'm not dead, God's not done. But staying focused on him and not being distracted by the worldly the ways of the world. and the things of this world. And it says, my eyes are always on the Lord, for he will pull my feet out of the net. It makes me think about, he is so focused on the Lord. He knows he's going to walk into a trap because he's focused on God, not where his feet are going, not necessarily the world around him. He knows he's going to walk into a trap, but he knows that God's going to get him out of it. So he stays focused on God because at the end of the day, the Lord is his salvation. The Lord will get him out of any trap he walks into, any snare he gets caught in. And so, verse 16, turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am alone and afflicted. The distresses of my heart increase. Bring me out of my sufferings. He's pleading with God again to please help him not be in the situation he's in. And he sort of says, God, I feel alone. I am alone, and I'm afflicted. The distresses of my heart increase. Bring me out of my sufferings. Have you ever been so grieved by something, whether it's something your children did, something in the world, something that you're dealing with or you did, that it just felt like every time it was brought up or every time you thought about it, the pain in your heart about it increased? I imagine that's a little bit how David feels here. And personally lately, I just feel like I've been going through a lot, and I don't even know how to put words to it. I can't pinpoint like one specific thing that is grieving me, but there's just, it has felt like a lot to grieve. Maybe it's changing seasons, maybe it's this or that. And it seems that when I get into those places, my tolerance for the normal children loudness and general overstimulation that comes with children, my tolerance for that is just so much lower. And so lately it's felt a little bit like every time I walk in my house, I'm like, oh, the distresses of my heart are increasing, and it's so dramatic in my head. But I've asked God to bring me out of my sufferings, but it's so frustrating to even pray it because I'm like, I asked for this. I prayed for this family, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Why can't I just be grateful? Why can't I just enjoy it? And the truth is that I'm just getting too caught up in the things of this world. I'm getting too caught up in the things that I feel stress about. But at the end of the day, if I'm keeping my eyes on God, if I'm staying focused on Him, it doesn't matter what stresses come my way. He's going to get me through it. And so it was a really great reminder there. Verse 18, consider my affliction and trouble and forgive all my sins. Consider my enemies, they are numerous, and they hate me violently. Guard me and rescue me. Do not let me be put to shame, for I take refuge in you. May integrity and what is right watch over me, for I wait for you. I think a lot about integrity. In fact, I was watching a show that I like on Netflix. And it's one of those like kind of high school shows. I have no shame, so I don't even want to hear it. But it's one of those shows where, you can tell that the bad decision making in high school is kind of like the focal point. And I kind of was watching and just like yelling at the screen about have some integrity to some of the characters. And what was so funny is later I found out that character actually did have integrity, and they didn't do what classic that character would do. And I about jumped out of my chair screeching when I found out that he grew his integrity fruit, right? And, it's just me watching something on the TV. Imagine me seeing my kids grow in those areas of those fruits, and maybe how God feels when He sees us grow in those fruits. But I I think the point here is that if you have integrity, if you are always doing what is right, or at least if you are doing your absolute best to make the right choices and stay truthful and true to God, it's like David is asking him to help him. Or no, he's saying, may integrity and what is right watch over me, for I wait for you. So it's almost like he's praying for those things to be upon him, for him to make the right choices, for him to do what is right in all situations, so that he would be maybe blameless in the eyes of the Lord, right? And then the last line of Psalm 25 is, God redeem Israel from all its distresses. This psalm is just what I needed to read today. And I actually read Psalm 22 before that, which also had lots of great nuggets that really stuck out to me. But what I want you to hear from this whole conversation is, when you depend on the Lord through thick and thin, through all the hard, through all the ugly in life, when you are truly connected to Him and you're plugged into God, you are going to see the way that He's carrying you through every tough situation you ever experience. I prayed about a lot of things today. I had a lot of different things written in my journal, which I feel like God was telling me I need to be writing in my journal a little bit more. Heard, understood, applying. But it was like I wrote down all of these things that I was concerned about, or all the things that were on my mind, or God, what do I do about this or that, and this psalm did not specifically reference anything but the way that my heart felt about the things I wrote down. That's all. But afterward, I already started to see God working in different areas in ways I had never expected. Things people were saying to me, not knowing the conversations I had with God today, were making my jaw drop. Somebody said something to me that made me almost fall to my knees in absolute worship and prayer, because truly, they don't know my prayer life, but I was desperately seeking God. I was desperately reaching out to Him about my concerns and my worries. And if you've ever sat in silence with God, sometimes there's this worry, like, is it God or is it me talking? And I tell you what, I swear God said to me, I am enough. I will provide for you. I will take care of you. Just stay focused on me. And whether He said it or not, I think it's good advice. And so I'm going to stay focused on God, and I'm going to continue to trust Him. It is so hard sometimes, and I don't think it's bad to ask for a break. So when you need a break, take a break. But understand that what you focus on and what you give your attention to, that's going to be what you see in your life. So if I'm going to stay focused on how frustrated I am with my kids, they're just going to be more and more frustrating every time I'm around them until I decide to change my focus. So if I'm going to make it through this season of whatever is going on, the weird, right? I've got to stay focused with my eyes on the throne, my heart directed towards God, and always open to His gentle whisper and calling in my life. So, I told you this was going to be a short episode. It is. That's all I've got for you today. Trust in the Lord. You won't regret it. If you need help doing that, or you need somebody to stand with you or help walk you with you in that journey, please reach out. Be happy to do that with you. In fact, I have a Facebook group called the Miracles and the Madness Community that you could be a part of. You just ask to join and answer the questions. I'll link it in the show notes below, but it is a great place to reach out to other God-fearing women who are looking for community in the same way. So I would totally invite you to be a part of it. All of that being said, I just want to pray it out. I think that's the right move here. So God, I just thank you so much for your word. I thank you so much for the people that you worked intimately with to write it. God, I pray that you would just bless the listener of this podcast and bless this time that we've spent together. God, I pray that if Psalm 25 didn't speak to them, that they would be encouraged and inspired to go look through some of the other Psalms that might reach a deeper level with them and help them trust you in their relationship even more. God, I thank you for this opportunity to share your word in this podcast, and I just pray that all who hear it would be blessed. We thank you so much for everything. We thank you for the opportunities we have to share your words with others. It's in Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Don't forget to look for the calm in the chaos and the miracles in the madness. Thank you for listening to Miracles in the Madness. I hope today's episode encouraged you and reminded you that even in the chaos, God is present and faithful. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend who might need a little encouragement today. This helps more listeners like you find this podcast. You can connect with me and find devotionals, resources, and faith-filled tools to support your walk with God at AshtonKever.com. You can also follow along on social media or join the community where we continue these conversations and walk this journey together. Remember, God is still writing your story. He's working in your everyday moments, and you are never alone in the beautiful chaos of motherhood.